Welcome back to our farmhouse on our little country farm. My name is Elizabeth, and I love to share the everyday beauty in our farmhouse here in the country. Jack, did you get a card for Valentine's Day? It says, "What does the cow say?" It is the week of Valentine's Day, and while we don't do anything too crazy for holidays like Valentine's Day, we did have a little bit of fun, and so I want to take you along on that fun with us. We have some fun cards, homemade and gifted to us. We have a fun treat, my husband's favorite treat, and we even have a little bit of an antique haul, which is not really related to Valentine's Day, but fun nonetheless.
Got one too. Did you see your Valentine's Day card? Oh yeah, yours had a maze and you already drew it, didn't you? That's sweet of them, huh?
Meet my baby, Benny Bong. My baby, Benny Bong. Benny Bong.
Is that your baby's name?
Yeah.
For Valentine's Day, I usually try to make a fun treat, mostly for my husband, but of course, Isla will enjoy some as well. For this year, I made some pastries, some cherry danishes, and some chocolate croissants. I've only done this one other time. They have turned out great both times, and so I wanted to share this recipe with you. It is a little bit more labor intensive, but it is just so worth it. It is so good. So to start this dough, I added half a cup of sugar, 4.5 teaspoons of active yeast, half a cup of melted butter, 1 cup of buttermilk, and 1.5 teaspoons of salt to my stand mixer. Once all of that was well incorporated, I started adding my flour. The recipe calls for 6 cups of all-purpose flour. I usually fall around 5 to 5.5, and I just kind of gauge it based on what it looks like. Some days it needs a little bit more, some days it needs a little bit less, and so you kind of just have to learn your dough, but you will after you make it a few times. Again, I usually use about 5 cups of flour. I don't normally add this to my regular bread, but for this specific use, I went ahead and added a little bit of vanilla, maybe a tablespoon. You want to knead the dough until it passes the window pane test, where you can see through it and it's very translucent, and then cover it up with a tea towel or a plate. We are going to let that rise for 4-ish hours or until doubled. Once the dough has doubled in size, I am taking 2 sticks of butter. This totals 1 cup, and putting it on floured parchment paper. And I'm going to roll this into a rectangle that can be fully enveloped by my dough. Roughly maybe 8 by 10, 6 by 8, anywhere within there. I just kind of eyeballed it. I don't measure. I don't pull out a tape measure or anything like that. The easiest thing is just to eyeball it. Okay. Once I get close, I fold my paper, my parchment paper, around the butter slab, if you will, into a rectangle shape. That way it can fill in all the creases and get a pretty nice rectangle.
Seems like the right size.
Now this goes in the fridge to chill for about 10 minutes while I get started on my dough. I'm gonna roll this out on a floured surface until it is about half an inch thick, about the same as you would for cinnamon rolls.
I'm just gonna try and get this in a square.
You want to keep it roughly in a rectangular shape to match your butter slab. Once it's rolled out, I take the butter and unwrap it from the parchment paper, place it in the center of the dough, and fold over all of the edges to kind of envelope that slab of butter in the middle. And then I like to pinch my seams closed. To start the laminating process, I am rolling out the dough again, just after I have sealed those seams. I'm going to fold one edge to the center, then the other edge to the center, and then fold it in half again, so that there are 4 layers of this croissant or pastry dough. Wrap it in parchment, and then this is going to sit in the fridge for 30 minutes to 1 hour. We're gonna do this a couple of times. Like I said, it's a little bit more labor intensive, but it is so worth it when you see all of the buttery, flaky layers. This is what gets the butter incorporated into different layers into the dough. So we are going on our second rolling and then folding to create those delicious butter layers. You roll it back out, fold each side back into the middle, and then fold it in half again for the 4 layers. I like to do this 3 times, allowing it to chill in the refrigerator for 30 minutes to an hour in between each one. You don't want that butter to melt. You want it to stay very, very cold. And so that is why we chill it each time. Now in the meantime, I tended to babies who needed naps and went through a few antiques that a friend had picked up for me. You gotta make the friends that will call you or FaceTime you when they get to a yard sale and see all the things that they know that you like. That is what happened to me. Those are just the best because I didn't even have to drag my 2 kids out to this yard sale and I still got some goodies. I got a few very large bread pans to test out. I don't know that I will keep these. These are kind of testers because they don't have the lids with them. But it was a very cheap way to test them out. There were several beautiful dishes like this scalloped edge floral bowl. I'm not fancy about antiques. I don't always know the history of them or whether they're actually worth anything. I just buy what I think is pretty at the antique shops or thrift shops. One thing I do look out for though is any kind of real ironstone, blue and white flow china, and I know that the ones that I like the most are the Johnson Brothers, and so that's what I showed there. I'm sure this pie pan or tart pan is not anything old, but it had some beautiful roses on it, and I love roses. I've also been on the lookout for a salt container to hold my salt. I buy salt in bulk. I use it a lot to cook from scratch and bake bread. When I saw this, I knew it would be perfect for that with the little pretty blue design, but it had a ton of tape on it, and so I had to clean that off. For $6, she got all of those dishes plus some that I didn't show, a glass candlestick holder and a few other things, and all of the linens in this box. I always go for anything crochet or lace edge with embroidery. My mom loves doilies, and so she got some doilies in this. And there were a few beautiful floral pillowcases as well.
Ooh, Aladon, this may have to go on a dress for you. All of these are a little stained, but Mama Mike can work on them. Oh, that's cute. Little peaches.
She also found me this cute little local flour sack. It had recipes on the back, and it had the mill where the grains were milled at, and it was just kind of neat. I don't know if it was old. I don't know how old if it was, but nonetheless, I thought it was very cool. I'm not a purist when it comes to old things. I just pick up what I love.
Maybe.
I also got a few handkerchiefs. I love to put these around my bags or in my hair, in my little girl's hair, and so that was a fun find as well. She got all of this for $6. That is just crazy. Now we are back to our pastries. Here I am just making a cherry pie filling. I got a whole bunch of these cherries. I have them in the freezer. I had plans to can them, but we just didn't get there, and so here they are in the freezer. So I threw those in a saucepan, added some sugar, some brown sugar, and some vanilla, and a little bit of salt, and I'm just letting that cook down and then thicken back up while I prepare the actual croissant dough and pastry dough. I started with the chocolate croissants. I love chocolate croissants, and so these were less for my husband and more for me. Now I will say the next time that I make these, I will buy the proper chocolate to make these. They have little like bars of chocolate that would do much better than the chocolate chips, and I will be putting more chocolate in them. Yes, they were so good, but to have just a hint of chocolate wasn't quite enough, and so I did some research, and the chocolate bar is important, and I think they just need a touch more. For the pastries, I cut this into 16 rectangles. For the croissants, I just did a rectangle croissant. I didn't do the triangles, but you definitely could. I placed chocolate at one end, rolled it up in there halfway, and put a little bit more chocolate in a straight line along that edge, and then continued rolling it. Now some of these I did not lay the right direction, so they didn't bake as pretty. They tried to kind of unroll and they baked a little bit more open. This one right here in the front that I'm washing with egg now is the right way. You want to put that seam side down to keep it from trying to open up. Do the egg wash on top to get that nice croissant texture on top. And these were just so good, y'all. For the cherry danishes, I took the same rectangles. I put 5 dabs of egg wash, 4 in the corners and then 1 in the center, and just folded each corner to the center. Then I'm just gonna give it a good press. Some of these didn't hold their shape and they kind of came apart, but these are one of those desserts that can kind of come apart a little bit and just look a little rustic, and they're still beautiful. That egg wash right on top, and then I filled with the cherry filling right in the center. These would also be very good with like a cream cheese filling in the center as well with the cherry pie filling. Then finish it off with a powdered sugar and milk drizzle, and they are wonderful. My husband took them to work and shared them with some coworkers, and they also said they were very good. So you should definitely try them out. And my daughter goes to Awana. She's not quite old enough, but my mom is an Awana teacher at our church, and so she gets to go, and they were having a Valentine's party this night. And while I didn't have her Valentine's cards from the store ready to go, I still wanted her to participate, so we had some ribbon and some construction paper and some glue, and we made it happen. Maybe they're not the fanciest and not the most creative, but she loved making them. She's very crafty. She loves any kind of craft. Right now we're working on cutting and gluing, so this was the perfect activity for her, and she had a blast working on this. Now I did add the ribbon. I let her kind of help me pick out which ribbon with which card and where she wanted to put it, but I tied the bows and then hot glued them on.
Stand back.
We did a few different designs. We did some hearts stacked on top of each other vertically. We did several, like you can see here, with a smaller heart in the center. We did some into flowers made out of hearts. We tried to get creative with it, even though it was just construction paper and glue and ribbon.
Do you like it there, or do you like it here?
I like it
Down here? Okay.
Now toddlers only last so long, so here's Mama finishing these up, adding the ribbon. This wasn't something she could help with as much anyway with the hot glue, but she eventually comes back to help me sign all of these.
They're taking off. I'm taking them off. 2 or 3.
Thank you for joining me for another video. I cannot wait to see you. And until next week, thanks for stopping by.